Once you have your categories and tags established within your Quicken file, you're ready to begin entering transactions. I like to change the preferences in two ways in terms of the display. I like to have a two-line display, and I also like to have the memo line follow the category and tag. To change the preferences on the memo line, we'll go to Edit, Preferences, we'll go to the Register, and I'm going to check off and the show memo before the category. So that'll change the placement of the memo to be the end of the transaction. If you then are satisfied with the look that you have, you're ready to begin entering information. So you can see that you can either click on the little calendar to select a date. You can scroll using the arrows to a specific date, or you can type in the numbers. And so let's say I'm getting caught up for the previous year and I want to begin with a early January date, 1/4/15. We'll enter the check number, so we enter our first check number. After that we can click on next check number, and let's say our first payee is Yukon John Deere, and we're spending a mere $30 on a repair item that we're going to charge to our cow-calf operation. So we choose from the category list either by typing in the first few letters or by clicking on the drop-down arrow and scrolling through the list to find the appropriate label. The same with our tag. In this case, we're using tags to identify the enterprise to which the expense will be charged, and we can type the first few letters of the name, or we can click on the drop-down arrow. We can add detail in the memo if we want a refresher on what this is for, and this is something to do with the winch on the pickup. Once we've recorded the information, we click on Save. That will update the balance in our check register, and we're ready to go to the next line and enter a new transaction. So we can either advance the date by clicking on plus, or we can click on the calendar if needed. We can click on next check number, and we're ready to enter our next payee. In this case, I'm going to record a transaction at the Klondike Co-op for a larger amount, and this transaction will be split into multiple components. So by clicking on the little arrow, the Y looking split, you can identify multiple categories and multiple enterprises that make up the total for the bill. And so let's say in this case that we're paying for both seed, and it's for wheat, as well as fertilizer, which is also for wheat. And we could, if we wanted to, specify the number of pounds and at what price, if we wanted to do so. And let's say we'll put in an additional number here. So because we initially typed in 421, we'll want to click on adjust so that the total is the sum of those two parts. So now we have a transaction that is a split amount. We can always go back and look at the components of that split by clicking on the split, and you'll see that observed in the register. So a payee where you're going to have splits that vary regularly, for instance at Walmart, you may have a combination of groceries and farm items with the splits varying continuously. We're going to memorize a blank transaction. So no amount, no splits with that, so that it will come up with a blank transaction when we type in that name. And I'll show you an example of why we might want to do that. So if in our case, if we do a next check number and we type in Klondike Co-op, it presumes that we want to have the same information as we did in the previous transaction. If we don't want that, we can click on the red X to clear all the split lines and say yes, and that gives us an opportunity to start over from the beginning. And so if this time we're buying fuel, then, and maybe this is for the cow-calf operation, but we need to remember to change the amount as well. Then we've got to be careful as to what it brings out. It wants to try to save us time in terms of data entry, but sometimes in doing so you can end up with odd transactions if you don't remember to clear that split. I'll show you how to enter a deposit as well. So we'll click on deposit, and perhaps we sold some hay. So we'll type in the name of the purchaser of the hay, and let's say it is $480, but we've got to remember to tab over to the, made two mistakes here. The first I wanted to signal that it was a deposit, in which case it would have taken me automatically to the deposit column. So now we have it in the deposit column. We want to choose the race sales, our hay is another product. We can again include the tag hay, and maybe it's 4 bales at $120 each. Again, that gives us a reference that we can go back and look for in the future. But by using both the categories and tags, we've increased the management capability that we have in terms of sorting and summarizing information in a variety of ways. So I encourage you to do that, and if you want to see examples of the end results, look at our instructions as well as the video on creating cash flow reports.